Life, when we quietly carry names, memories, and stories that no longer belong to our present, yet still shape the way we breathe, think, and feel. We replay what was said, what was done, and what was lost, as if understanding the past could somehow change its outcome. But there is a deeper truth waiting beneath all of this noise, a truth that asks for courage, not anger, awareness, not blame. Because the moment you begin to see your life without pointing fingers, you also begin to see your own strength for the very first time. People who spend years standing in the same emotional place, not because life refused to move forward, but because their hearts never left the moment they were hurt. They carry old conversations into new mornings. They carry betrayal into new relationships. They carry disappointment into every opportunity that tries to bloom in front of them. And without realizing it, they begin building a home inside a memory that was only supposed to be a lesson. The past becomes a chair they sit in every day, staring at doors that have already closed, wondering why peace never enters the room. The truth is, blame has a quiet way of chaining a person to yesterday. It convinces you that your growth must wait until someone apologizes, until someone understands your pain, until someone finally admits what they did to you. But life does not pause for those answers. Time keeps moving. Seasons keep changing. And while you are waiting for closure from others, your own future stands at a distance, hoping you will finally choose yourself over your wounds. Some people hurt you because they were lost within themselves. Some walked away because they lacked the maturity to value what they had. Others spoke from their own bitterness, fear, or insecurity. None of these things excuse the pain they caused, but carrying blame forever will not undo what happened. It only gives the past permission to continue living inside your present. And eventually, the heaviest burden is not the pain itself. It is the constant reliving of it. There is a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "What is this experience teaching me?" That question changes everything. Suddenly, pain becomes wisdom instead of identity. Loss becomes redirection instead of destruction. And the people who once broke your heart no longer control the direction of your life. You begin to understand that every difficult chapter carried a lesson about strength, boundaries, self-worth, or resilience that could not have been learned any other way. Growth requires release. A tree cannot reach toward the sky while clinging to dead branches. In the same way, the human spirit cannot fully heal while holding tightly to resentment. The moment you release blame, you create space for peace to enter your life, not because the past was fair, but because your future deserves better than endless suffering. You deserve mornings that are not haunted by old pain. You deserve relationships untouched by old bitterness. You deserve a mind that no longer replays what hurt you as if pain were the only story worth remembering. One day you will realize that your greatest victory was never proving someone wrong. It was refusing to let their actions define the rest of your life. It was choosing growth over bitterness, wisdom over anger, and freedom over blame. And in that moment, you will finally understand that some chapters were never meant to hold you forever. They were only meant to teach you how strong you truly are. Sometimes we look at the people who hurt us and imagine that they moved through life untouched, unaffected, and whole, while we alone carried the weight of the damage they caused. But if life teaches us anything with time, it is this: wounded people often wound others without even understanding the depth of what they are doing. A person fighting battles within themselves can become careless with the hearts around them. Their silence, anger, dishonesty, or cruelty is often born from storms they never learned how to calm. There are people who grew up without tenderness, so they struggle to give tenderness to others. There are people who were betrayed so deeply that trust became difficult for them. Some learned to hide their pain behind pride, while others buried their fears beneath control, distance, or anger. And when life placed them in your path, they brought all of those unresolved pieces with them. Not because you deserve to suffer, but because brokenness that is ignored eventually spills into every relationship it touches. This does not mean you should excuse harmful behavior or allow people to repeatedly bring pain into your life. Understanding someone's wounds does not require you to sacrifice your own peace, but there is freedom in realizing that not every hurtful action was truly about you. Sometimes people project onto others the chaos they cannot face within themselves. Sometimes they leave because they are afraid of commitment. Sometimes they criticize because they secretly feel inadequate. Sometimes they hurt the people closest to them because they have never learned how to carry love without fear. When you begin to see this, something inside you softens, not into weakness, but into wisdom. You stop taking every betrayal as proof that you are unworthy. You stop measuring your value through the inability of someone else to love correctly. And slowly you understand that another person's brokenness should never become the mirror through which you see yourself. Many people are walking through life smiling on the outside while silently fighting battles no one can see. Some are carrying childhood pain they never healed from. Some are exhausted from disappointments they never spoke about. Some are angry at themselves, and that anger quietly reaches everyone around them. Human beings often pass pain from one heart to another without even realizing they are doing it. It is a cycle repeated through families, friendships, and relationships until someone finally chooses healing over hurt. Be that person. Be the one who refuses to continue the chain of bitterness. Be the one who learns from pain instead of becoming consumed by it. Because the strongest people are not those who never suffered, they are those who suffered and still chose kindness. They are the ones who could have become cold, but decided to remain compassionate. They are the ones who understood that healing begins when we stop asking life to give us perfect people and start learning how to protect our peace without losing our humanity. And perhaps one of the greatest forms of maturity is realizing that everyone you meet is carrying something invisible. Some carry grief, some carry fear, some carry loneliness disguised as pride. Once you understand this, your heart no longer rushes toward hatred so easily. You begin to move through life with deeper awareness, knowing that behind many harsh actions are unhealed storms that were never properly faced. For life carried you toward something greater. There is a strange comfort in blaming others for everything that went wrong in our lives. It gives the mind someone to point at, someone to hold responsible for the pain, the disappointments, and the dreams that never unfolded the way we imagined. For a moment, blame can feel powerful. It protects the ego from difficult truths and allows us to believe that our suffering exists only because of someone else's choices. But over time, that comfort becomes a cage, because the longer a person blames the world for their condition, the longer they unknowingly surrender their own power to change it. Blame creates invisible prisons. The walls cannot be seen, yet they shape every part of life. A person trapped in blame struggles to move forward because every step is tied to resentment. They replay old moments, old arguments, old betrayals, convincing themselves that happiness cannot return until justice arrives in the exact form they desire. But life rarely offers that kind of closure. Many wounds never receive apologies. Many questions remain unanswered. And if your freedom depends on someone else correcting the past, then your peace will always remain in the hands of people who may never change. Responsibility, however, is different. Responsibility is not saying that everything that happened to you was fair. It is not pretending that pain did not leave scars. It is not denying the reality of betrayal, abandonment, or heartbreak. Responsibility simply means recognizing that while you may not control what happened to you, you still control what happens within you, and that realization changes everything. The moment a person accepts responsibility for their healing, their mindset, and their future, they stop waiting to be rescued. They stop giving broken experiences the authority to define the rest of their lives. Instead of asking, "Who ruined me?" they begin asking, "How do I rebuild myself stronger than before?" That question carries power because it places the future back into their own hands. There are people who spend decades imprisoned by the same emotional pain because they never realized the door was unlocked from the inside. Their anger became familiar, their bitterness became identity, their suffering became the story they repeated so often that they forgot who they were without it. But healing begins when a person decides that pain may be part of their history, yet it will not become the center of their destiny. Freedom comes when you understand that responsibility is not punishment, it is power. It is the ability to choose growth over excuses. It is the courage to face your own habits, your own fears, your own reactions, and say, "I may have been wounded, but I refuse to remain broken." That kind of mindset transforms lives, because the strongest people are not always those who had easy journeys. Often they are the ones who looked at difficult circumstances and still chose to rise instead of surrender. At some point, every person must decide whether they will continue decorating the prison of blame or finally walk toward the freedom of responsibility. One path keeps the past alive forever. The other creates space for healing, wisdom, and a future no longer controlled by old pain. And the beautiful truth is this: the key to that freedom has been within you all along. Most people spend a large part of their lives searching outside themselves for the reason they feel empty, disappointed, or unhappy. They point toward failed relationships, difficult childhoods, betrayals, rejection, or unfair circumstances, believing that somewhere within those experiences lies the complete explanation for the heaviness they carry. And while those experiences absolutely shape us, there comes a moment when continuing to focus only on the outside begins to block the very healing we are searching for. Because transformation does not begin the day the world finally understands your pain, it begins the day you become willing to understand yourself. Looking inward is one of the hardest things a person can do. It is far easier to examine the mistakes of others than to sit quietly with your own fears, patterns, and truths. Many people become experts at identifying who hurt them while remaining strangers to their own emotional wounds. They know exactly who disappointed them, but they do not know why they continue accepting less than they deserve. They know who betrayed their trust, but they have never asked why they ignore the warning signs that keep repeating in their lives. Real growth begins when the focus shifts from accusation to awareness. Sometimes the pain we carry is not only connected to what happened to us, but also to the way we continue feeding those wounds long after the moment has passed. Some people constantly revisit painful memories until sadness becomes part of their identity. Others seek validation from those who have already shown they cannot provide it, and many continue repeating the same emotional cycles because facing themselves honestly feels uncomfortable. But healing requires honesty, not the kind that blames or shames, but the kind that gently asks, "What part of me still needs attention, healing, and understanding?" When you begin looking inward, you start discovering truths that change your life. You realize that your worth was never dependent on someone choosing you. You understand that peace cannot grow inside a mind constantly searching for external approval. You begin to notice the habits, fears, and insecurities that quietly shape your decisions. And instead of fighting the world every day, you begin working on the relationship you have with yourself. This inward journey is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming conscious. Conscious of the thoughts you entertain, conscious of the energy you allow around you, conscious of the wounds that influence your reactions. Because many people are not reacting to the present moment at all. They are reacting from old pain that was never healed. A small disappointment feels enormous because it touches an old rejection. A disagreement feels unbearable because it awakens an old abandonment. Without self-awareness, the past quietly controls the present. But the moment you begin understanding yourself, your life starts changing in ways you never expected. You stop chasing people who drain your spirit. You stop abandoning your peace just to keep others comfortable. You stop measuring your value through temporary opinions. Instead, you begin building a life rooted in clarity, wisdom, and emotional strength. And perhaps that is one of the greatest turning points in human life. Not when the world changes around you, but when something changes within you. Because once you learn to look inward with honesty and compassion, you no longer depend on blame to explain your existence. You begin to understand yourself more deeply, and through that understanding, you finally discover the freedom and transformation you were searching for all along. Life does not always ask for permission before bringing pain into our path. Sometimes it arrives suddenly through betrayal, loss, rejection, disappointment, or words that leave invisible scars long after they are spoken. No one escapes hardship completely. No matter how kind, wise, or strong a person may be, there will still be moments that shake the heart and test the spirit. Pain is part of being human. It enters every life in different forms, often without warning, and leaves people questioning why certain experiences had to happen at all. But while pain may arrive uninvited, the meaning we attach to that pain is something far more powerful. Two people can walk through the same storm and emerge completely different. One may allow suffering to harden their heart, convincing themselves that life can no longer be trusted. The other may carry the same scars, yet choose to become wiser, kinder, and stronger because of what they endured. The experience may be similar, but the meaning created from it changes the entire direction of a person's life. This is why some people remain trapped in their suffering for years, while others transform their wounds into wisdom. It is not because their pain was smaller, it is because they refused to let pain become the final definition of who they were. They understood that difficult moments can either destroy a person's spirit or deepen their understanding of life, depending on what they choose to learn from them. There are lessons that comfort could never teach. Strength is often born in seasons where everything feels uncertain. Compassion grows deeper in people who understand heartbreak. Wisdom is usually shaped through mistakes, failures, and moments of emotional struggle. Even resilience, the quiet ability to continue moving forward despite difficulty, is formed through experiences that once felt unbearable. Pain changes people, but it does not have to change them into something bitter. It can also shape them into something powerful. Many people spend years asking, "Why did this happen to me?" without realizing that the question itself keeps them tied to suffering. The mind becomes trapped, searching for reasons, replaying moments that cannot be changed. But healing begins when the question shifts from, "Why me?" to, "What can this teach me?" That small shift creates a completely different relationship with pain. Instead of becoming only a wound, the experience becomes a source of growth, awareness, and inner strength. Some of the most inspiring people in the world were not shaped by easy lives. They were shaped by challenges that forced them to discover parts of themselves they never knew existed. Their pain taught them patience. Their losses taught them gratitude. Their struggles taught them empathy for others. What once seemed like the end of them became the very thing that awakened their purpose. You cannot always control what life places in your hands. There will be moments that feel unfair, painful, and deeply difficult to understand. But even in those moments, there remains one thing no hardship can fully take from you: the power to decide what your suffering will mean. You can allow it to close your heart, or you can let it open your eyes. You can let it turn you bitter, or you can let it make you wiser. And perhaps that is one of the deepest truths of all. Pain may enter your life without permission, but the story created from that pain still belongs to you. There are moments when the people who upset us the most are not simply touching our patience, they are touching our wounds. Their actions awaken emotions that feel far deeper than the situation itself. A small rejection feels unbearable. A moment of disrespect feels personal beyond measure. A disagreement lingers in the mind for days. And often, what hurts us most is not only what another person did, but the hidden pain within us that their behavior exposed. Human beings have a quiet tendency to blame others for emotions they do not fully understand within themselves. We accuse others of making us feel invisible, unworthy, abandoned, or unloved, without realizing that these feelings may have existed long before those people entered our lives. Sometimes another person simply shines a light on wounds we have been carrying for years. The pain feels new, but in truth, it is often an old echo asking to finally be healed. A person who constantly fears rejection may become deeply wounded by even the smallest distance from others. Someone who secretly doubts their own worth may feel shattered by criticism because it touches an insecurity already living inside them. A person who has never healed from betrayal may struggle to trust anyone, seeing danger even where none exists. In these moments, the outer experience becomes connected to an inner wound that has been waiting for attention for far too long. This is why blame alone can never fully heal a person. You may remove one difficult person from your life, yet the same emotional pain appears again through someone new. Different faces, different situations, but the same wounds continue repeating themselves because the real battle was never entirely outside of you. Life has a strange way of placing mirrors in front of us until we finally stop running from what needs healing within. That realization can feel uncomfortable at first. The mind often wants simple answers. It wants one person to blame, one enemy to point toward, one explanation for all suffering. But growth asks for something deeper. It asks for honesty. It asks you to sit quietly with yourself and ask difficult questions. Why does this hurt me so deeply? Why do I keep attracting the same emotional patterns? What part of me still feels unseen, unhealed, or afraid? These questions are not meant to create guilt. They are meant to create awareness. Because awareness is the beginning of transformation. The moment you recognize your wounds, you stop expecting the world to heal them for you. You begin taking responsibility for your own emotional peace. Instead of demanding that everyone behave perfectly so you can feel whole, you begin building that wholeness within yourself. Healing is not about becoming emotionless. It is about understanding your emotions instead of being controlled by them. It is learning to separate the present moment from the pain of the past. It is recognizing when old scars are speaking louder than current reality. And little by little, through self-awareness, reflection, and growth, you stop reacting from wounded places and start responding from wisdom. One of the greatest forms of freedom is realizing that every painful interaction carries a hidden opportunity for self-discovery. The people who challenge you may also reveal what still needs healing inside you. Not every conflict is there to destroy you. Some arrive to awaken you. Some arrive to show you where your spirit still needs compassion, strength, and care. And when you finally begin healing those hidden parts of yourself, something beautiful happens. The world no longer has the same power to shake you. You stop carrying old wounds into every new chapter. You stop expecting others to fill spaces only self-love can heal. And for the first time, your peace no longer depends on who stays, who leaves, who praises you, or who misunderstands you. It begins to rise from within. Life when excuses begin to feel heavier than the truth. For a while, excuses can protect us. They soften responsibility. They help us avoid difficult conversations with ourselves. We blame circumstances, blame timing, blame other people, and sometimes even blame life itself for why we have not grown into the person we wish to become. And although those reasons may contain pieces of truth, there is a deeper reality many people spend years avoiding. Nothing changes until we become willing to see ourselves honestly. Self-awareness is one of the rarest forms of strength because it requires courage without applause. It asks a person to stop performing for the world and quietly examine their own habits, reactions, fears, and choices. Many people can recognize flaws in others within seconds, yet struggle to recognize the patterns within themselves that continue creating pain. They wonder why the same disappointments keep repeating, why the same conflicts return, why the same emptiness follows them into every new chapter without realizing that unhealed patterns travel wherever they go. Excuses often feel comforting because they remove pressure from the self. It is easier to say, "People always hurt me," than to ask why we continue allowing harmful behavior into our lives. It is easier to say, "Nothing ever works out for me," than to confront the fear of failure that stops us from trying fully. It is easier to blame the world than to face the parts of ourselves that still need discipline, healing, patience, or growth. But excuses, no matter how convincing, quietly keep a person standing still. The moment self-awareness begins, something powerful shifts inside the human spirit. You begin noticing how your own thoughts shape your reality. You recognize how certain fears influence your decisions. You become aware of emotional wounds that have quietly controlled your reactions for years. Instead of constantly asking why life is happening to you, you begin asking how you are responding to life. And that question creates transformation because it places power back into your own hands. Self-awareness does not mean becoming harsh with yourself. Growth is not built through self-hatred. True awareness carries compassion alongside honesty. It allows you to acknowledge your mistakes without believing you are a failure. It allows you to recognize unhealthy patterns without losing hope in your ability to change. A mature person is not someone who never falls short. A mature person is someone willing to admit when they are wrong, learn from their experiences, and continue evolving instead of hiding behind pride. Many people stay trapped in the same emotional cycles because they never pause long enough to understand themselves. They react without reflection. They speak without awareness. They carry old pain into new relationships and then wonder why peace feels distant. But healing begins the moment a person becomes conscious of their inner world. Because once you understand your triggers, your fears, your weaknesses, and your strengths, you stop living on emotional autopilot. Growth is often quiet. It does not always arrive through dramatic moments. Sometimes it appears in small decisions. The decision to pause before reacting in anger. The decision to stop seeking validation from people who cannot give it. The decision to admit when your own behavior needs to change. These moments may seem small, but they slowly reshape an entire life. And perhaps that is the real beginning of transformation. The moment excuses lose their comfort and self-awareness becomes more important than protecting the ego. Because once a person truly begins to understand themselves, they no longer remain trapped by old patterns. They begin moving through life with greater wisdom, deeper peace, and a clearer understanding of who they are becoming. The past has a powerful way of trying to follow people into places it no longer belongs. Even after the moment is over, even after the years have passed, memories can still whisper old fears into new beginnings. A person who once failed may become afraid to try again. Someone who was betrayed may struggle to trust even those who genuinely care for them. A painful chapter ends, yet its shadow quietly stretches into the future, shaping decisions, relationships, and dreams without permission.